Hey all, we are back with another episode of Can't Stop Snapping. This is the episode where we will be diving into thoughts about Nexus Events, changes to the collection level tracker and rewards, etc. So it's a big conversation. There's definitely some strong feelings from myself, from the guest host, as well as trying to look at potential positives and our hope for the future of the game. Before we dive into that, I just wanted to cover one thing. Since the recording of the episode, Ben Brode has released a statement on Twitter, on the official Discord, etc., and I just wanted to read that for you and share my thoughts. So he says, earlier this week, we shipped the latest release of Marvel Snap to players and launched in New Zealand and Australia. With that release came a new monetization feature we wanted to introduce and test, Nexus Events. It's clear that a lot of you are disappointed with Nexus Events, and we hear you. We missed the mark on this. Internally, we are having discussions around next steps and how we can act on your feedback. We're here for the long run and are focused on creating a great game that is fair and that you'll love. Stay tuned to hear more from us. So I think that was good. I think a lot of people felt like kind of the silence was a little deafening, even though it had only been a day and a half or so since the release of the feature. And so I do appreciate Ben Brode's statement. Obviously, we didn't have that context when we recorded this episode. But again, we do kind of allude to in our conversation that there's definitely some bad things and things we're not excited about that with the changes that have come. But we do have hope that the developers are listening and that they will make positive changes and that obviously they're here for the long haul. So, nothing's set in stone. We're still in beta. The hope is that things will change, but just wanted to share that statement by Ben Brode in case you had not read it. But with that all being said, and with kind of those thoughts shared, let's jump into today's episode. Hey everybody, we are back with another episode of Can't Stop Snapping. And today's topic is a big one. As you know, we released an episode a couple of days ago that covered the patch notes. But obviously, as we talked in that episode, we really didn't dive too deep into the changes to progression in the game or Nexus Events, which has been a very hot topic in the Discord, on Twitter, etc. So today is the day we are covering these heavy and large topics, giving our thoughts. And once again, I am joined by a great guest host. I am joined by Chalker7. He has been streaming the game over on Twitch. Has been putting out some great content around Marvel Snap. Chalker, thank you for being here.
Oh, so happy. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and talk about this stuff.
Yeah, no, we're glad to have you on. Just before we dive into the topics I just alluded to, I just want you to have a second to kind of introduce yourself to the listeners. How did you learn about Marvel Snap, and what's been your favorite thing about Marvel Snap as a game?
Oh, sure. So I've been a longtime fan of collectible card games. I mean, dating back decades to the 90s with Magic the Gathering and everything when I was a kid. But I've been playing Hearthstone pretty seriously for, about 7 years. I actually host another podcast on the duels mode over in Hearthstone. Oops, all duels. People should go check that out if they're interested. But I've been, I've known who Ben Brode and the crew over at Second Dinner is, and I've been a longtime fan of Marvel, so I was really looking forward to this, and I was really really stoked. And so, yeah, I've been streaming a little bit. I should be increasing a little. We'll see how things turn out as the beta goes on. But over the next month or so, I'm hoping to stream, and I've got a kind of an interesting mode of streaming. I try to open cards exclusively on stream and then build a deck right afterwards with the new card and then test it out for a little bit. So I'm really focusing on the collecting aspect of it rather than the competitive aspect that some of the other streamers are doing there. I'm looking to have fun and have a nice chill time with Marvel Snap.
Yeah, and I think some of the things you just said is part of the reason we want to have you on, because I think you bring a slightly different perspective on certain things than maybe people who are trying to play this or hope to play this exclusively in a competitive manner. So I think we're going to have some interesting conversation here. So diving right in, the first thing we want to talk about is the changes to the collection level tracker and the rewards that are unlocked. Mm-hmm. So previously, as you'll know, there were kind of a variety of rewards you can unlock as your collection level increased. You'd unlock guaranteed mystery cards from different pools of cards. You would unlock credits. You would unlock boosters. And then you would have kind of these mystery rewards, which could be credits or gold. And so,
Or variants,
that's
right?
how. Sorry, say that again.
Weren't they variants also? Variants were one of the
And
mystery rewards.
variants also, yeah, at a low rate. Yes, you're right. I believe a 10% rate. So that was how it was previously working over the last several weeks. So the change comes that starting at collection level 500, you instead of getting a guaranteed card, the cards on the track have been replaced with what's called a collector's cache. A collector's cache has a 50% chance of giving you a new card, which this is a new card. I believe you'd start in pool 2, and then this would go into pool 3 just based on the collection levels. And then it has a 50% chance of giving you gold, credits, or boosters. Now, I don't really know how that 50% breaks down into the gold, credits, and boosters. It's not clear if that's an even drop for those. But that's, that's what's replaced cards from collection level 500 to 1,000. Now, some things to note is that the gold drops and the credit drops are 50% more. So instead of 50 gold, you'd be getting 150 gold if you pull that from one of these caches, and you'd be pulling 150 or 300 credits instead of 100 or 200 credits. So that's what a collector's cache. Now, really quick, once you hit collection level 1,000, instead of the collector's cache, every 12 levels on the collection tracker, you'll be getting a collector's reserve, which has slightly different drop rates. 25% chance of a new card, 25% chance to earn a new cosmetic reward, which notably is a variant or an avatar. And again, they don't really give us the breakdown. Is that an even 12.5% for both? And then as well as more currency than collector's caches. So 200 gold or 200 to 400 credits. So I believe that falls into kind of the other 50% of that drop rate. So obviously that wasn't a lot of me talking, but I just wanted to make sure we're kind of clear of this. So interesting thing, the initial thought that a lot of people I think have had is that, there's more randomness. Now that is fair. And I think that's a fair complaint, and that maybe doesn't feel great. But a couple other things to note is that there is a bad luck protection. We don't fully know how that works, but essentially, you may go 4 or 5 and not pull a card, and that's every 12 levels in the collection tracker. But then you're kind of guaranteed at some point to pull a card, and everybody will obviously have slightly different pull rates, but they've kind of built it in a way that, once everybody gets to collection level 1,500, for example, you should have the same amount of cards pulled as everybody else that's at collection 1,500, give or take 1 card. So they're trying to create minimal variance as far as overall cards. Their hope is that, instead of things being spaced out 96 levels for a card like they were previously, once you got to a certain level on the collection tracker, level 1,500, that this will feel better, because once you pass collection level 1,500, based on all the metrics they've told us and how they've explained it, you're actually going to be getting cards at a rate that's twice as fast. So again, that was a lot of me talking. So let's dive into our thoughts. Chalker, I just want to throw it over to you. What has been your initial reception of this? What are your thoughts on the community's reception that you and me have both been looking at? What are your overall kind of intro thoughts to this change?
Well, obviously, I'm stoked that we're getting cards and rewards faster, right? Like, that's really good. No one likes opening boosters, and no one liked getting 50 gold off of the mystery box. That was not a fun experience for anyone. I personally just wish that they had the cards labeled separately on the collector's track, just so that I would know when I'm opening a card. But that's purely for selfish reasons on my own content creation strategy. But I do like the sort of surprising randomness. But I don't know. This feels like they're giving away more stuff. I'm concerned about the people at the top level, but I don't think that we talk enough about the people that are just starting out, and right now it's only available in a handful of countries. How does this feel to the really low end players who are just going to get started out, and does it feel like they are advancing enough? Right now we're in this beta zone, right, where all of the people who first got the first invites and all the people that I'm sure are listening to this podcast even, or the people that are engaged with Marvel Snap in the discourse right now are very serious players, right? Everyone cares a lot and they know a lot about card games. There's no reason that we would be in on this beta. They aren't advertising this. They aren't reaching out to a larger group. So I feel bad, but I think that a lot of the discourse is centered around these really high level collection players. I know that there's a specific situation. I don't want to put anyone on blast or anything, but where some people are upset about having already maxed out the collection track and are frustrated that they aren't getting money back from that, or that they feel like they have wasted money because they are beyond this level. And I guess like my take on that is, you know, this is a beta, things are changing, and um, just give some grace to the developers, and then also slow down. I think that they've made it way too easy to spend too much money too quickly on this, and that there's a mentality right now within card gaming community that, you know, you need to get the biggest collection as fast as possible. And I don't think about like in Hearthstone or in Magic, like the big fun is the new set comes out and you tear open all your packs and you sit there and you know, I remember being a kid and getting like 5 packs and being so excited at my birthday or whatever, getting a box, a case at Christmas and being super
Mm-hmm.
super stoked and tearing the whole thing up, and like that's obviously an enjoyable thing for people to see, getting new cards and going as fast as possible and getting their biggest collection. But obviously this game is different in that they just don't have the cards out there, right? So if you sit there and race and race and race and race to get to the end, you're gonna get there. You can throw enough money out and you can finally end up at the end, and once you're at the end, there's no more track, right? There's no more cards to collect. So I mean, I never want to be someone out here saying this is how you should be having fun, because that's like the biggest scold, not the coolest thing to do. But I do want to encourage people to think about this game in a very different mentality than other collectible card games, just because they completely eliminated the pack technique, right? The pack mechanism. And so if we think about it in a slightly different way, and aren't just looking for new cards, I think this change is great, right? Because you get all sorts of other cool things, you get more other resources. I don't know if it's a good thing for people to be trying to accelerate their collections, though. I think that the most of the complaints that I see online are people saying that the top end experience feels bad, and that may be true, but I think that that also comes from sample selection. I wonder how more casual players that are just, you know, doing a couple matches on their phone every now and then, I wonder how they feel about this and if this is going to be a successful game based off of that. Does that make sense? Is that fair? Is that a too much
No,
of
I,
a
I
thing?
I think you point out a lot of great things. You know, I think it's hard, like you say. I mean, you know, you and me obviously creating content around the game. We're passionate. We've been playing it a lot, right? There's probably people that have got into the beta that are playing less than us, but like everybody to some level is invested, right, and is wanting to try this out. Um, so I totally hear you there, and I think a part of this is obviously they're they say they're looking at data. Now, obviously, we don't know what the data is, or how they're interpreting the data, or how they're making decisions based off the data they're looking at, right? And some of that is qualitative. You know, I'm sure they're looking at numbers and actual engagement in the game, but obviously, a lot of it's, I think I said qualitative. I meant quantitative. And then some of it is qualitative, right? Where obviously the feedback people are sending in surveys, they're sending in the Discord, they're sending on Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, there's a lot of things here. Now, with this change specific, I think, unfortunately, I mean, we're going to dive into some other topics today that I think are more concerning to me, and I have stronger feelings about. So I think in some ways those have overshadowed this change because,
I agree.
you know, looking at the math here and looking at the explanation, things will progress faster overall for people once they get to a higher level. So it sounds like this in some ways. Now, you know, there may still be the complaint about the, you know, hey, I want to know when I'm getting a card, like you say, right? But like overall, it sounds like you're going to get cards faster at a certain point than you would have before. So you could say that's positive. As far as the changes, so I think there's some good in here. For me personally, right? Like, I mean, I'm okay getting some avatars, but like, I don't want that to be all the time, right? So the avatars I'm less excited about as that being an unlockable, and then I'm also less excited about kind of more boosters. I think that's a piece. There's
Yeah, I
been a
don't care
lot
about
of
boosters. I don't care
yeah
about boosters at all. They're the least interesting thing in the entire game to me.
yeah
I love the collector's track. I love that they're trying a new thing for the whole progression system. Boosters. This might go back to what I was saying earlier about they might be valuable to less advanced players, or to younger players or people that don't have as much time. But I genuinely wish the booster system would go from the entire game.
yeah.
That is a true wish of mine.
And a lot of people feel similarly, and I think that's a feedback they've been getting not just in the last days since the patch dropped, right? That's been since the beginning of the game. There's been, and they've expressed they're looking at it. Obviously, we can't read their minds. We don't know if or when a change will come. But at least for me, my thought is how it currently stands is, I can earn boosters by playing, right? I just need to play matches, and I can even wait to upgrade my cards so that, because if your cards are at common or uncommon level, you have a higher chance of pulling boosters for that card.
Yeah.
So like I can strategize, and I've done that, right? It's like I'm like, okay, I want to upgrade Dr. Doom, right? So I'm going to leave him at a low level until I have 155 boosters, and then I can upgrade him all the way until I can split him, and then I can do it again, right? Theoretically. So just giving kind of that random percentage drop of gaining more boosters, and because if they were wild boosters, right, and they could be used for any card, that's one thing. But when it's like any random card in your collection, right? So then it's like if you have 100 cards, it's like a 1% chance you're going to get it for the card you want. It just feels bad, right? So that's kind of my complaint here. I'd love to see maybe even lower percentage pulls for the avatars, and then obviously pull the boosters out.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think this has the potential to be more positive and to feel better in the later levels, like they've said. I'm personally not to level 1500. I'm close to 1100 in the collection track. I haven't spent any money on the game personally, except for the season passes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of waiting to see where, once I get there, right, and
Right.
but it's also hard because I didn't experience it before, right?
Sure.
So I won't personally have the contrast that some people maybe that are like 1600, 1700 will have to compare. But theoretically, in theory, understanding the changes, I think it sounds positive. Hey everybody, I wanted to jump in here for just a second to tell you about Anchor. Anchor is a tool that I am using to create this podcast and distribute it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and various other podcasting platforms. Anchor is an app you can download for free on the App Store and use to record, edit, add sound effects, etc., and distribute your podcast. I chose to use it because it was very simple to get up and going quickly, and it was free to use. If you have a podcast idea that you've been throwing around in your mind and you'd like to get out there, make sure to download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started and create your podcast today.
Yeah, I'd love to see a distribution of collection levels right now, like what percentage of players are at where and how long it took. I'm sure they have that data, and obviously it's all proprietary, but it'd be very interesting to see if are there 100 people over collection level 1500? How many people are over collection level 2000? Can't be very many, right? But
yeah,
what does that look like? And I didn't want to come off as sounding negative. And you're right, it is in a more positive direction. The thing that I love about this game in general is that it's so innovative. It's a totally different thing, right? They're trying something totally new, and a lot of stuff isn't working, but a lot of stuff is. And the fact that they're willing to sit here and poke at the collection level so much, so fast, and the collection track so much, so fast, that's reason for optimism. Same thing with the balance, right? They've been changing balance way faster than I thought they would.
100%. Yeah,
I got to applaud them for taking on that risk and taking on that challenge and trying something new. So good on you guys for doing that.
Yes, 100% agree. Well, let's change gears here, and I definitely have some stronger feelings here, and we'll kind of see what my thoughts are here. But that is Nexus Events. Nexus Events launched with this patch on July 19th, July 19th. And we've known through whisperings from the developers and kind of comments here or there in videos, etc., that there's this thing called Nexus Events coming. So it's something we've all been anticipating, those of us that have been following the game, testing the game, etc. I think first off, the choice of the word events made us all think it would be an event similar to, Magic the Gathering Arena, or to Legends of Runeterra or Hearthstone, right? Where sometimes there are these events where you can pay in-game currency to, maybe it's you play 7 matches or you play until you either get 7 wins or 2 losses, and based on how far you get a certain reward, right? There's a lot of variations of how card games have done kind of events or these kind of other game modes. I think at least and I know several others, kind of were under the impression we were going to see something like that, based on the title and kind of the vagueness of it. Also, the developer spoke multiple times about how they felt Nexus Events were a way, they said there was changes coming with Nexus Events and other things to be able to progress faster, unlock cards faster. Now, we just talked about changes to the collection level tracker, which I think does do that, what they said. But it still kind of feels disheartening with this Nexus Events, as we're going to dive in, that I was under the impression that this would be another way, a fun game mode or kind of some kind of event I could play into to unlock new cards, right?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like single player, maybe, or like in Hearthstone, there's this thing called Heroic Brawliseum, where it's similar to the Magic the Gathering. You go further, you get 7 wins or 2 losses. You get 3 losses or 12 wins, and the more wins you get, the more rewards you got. That's totally what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. So what it turns out Nexus Events are limited time loot boxes, right? For a limited time, you can pull loot boxes that have a certain theme. Currently, it is the Mighty Thor or Jane Foster themed, given that we're kind of in the Thor month with the Thor season pass. But essentially, you can open up a Nexus box 200 times, and to open one costs 180 gold. Now, obviously, we know gold is a currency you can get through playing the game, but you definitely can't get free gold through the game enough to open this event 200 times. And what we know as of right now is that this event, they're going to do this potentially twice every month. So right there, I mean, the math really isn't adding up as far as this being very free-to-play friendly. You're definitely
$900 a month. $900 a month. Sorry,
yeah.
I just had to emphasize that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to open the 200 times, now 200 times guarantees you're going to pull everything. But let's talk about what you unlock. If you did 200 pulls, you would unlock 2 cards: the Mighty Thor, Jane Foster, which is a new card, which currently can only be obtained through this mode and won't be obtainable on the normal collection level track for about 2 months. I'm trying to emphasize this so you can kind of understand how unfriendly this is. The other card you can unlock is Destroyer, which is already in collection level 3 and is already obtainable, but this is obviously a quote-unquote more directed way to unlock him if you pay $900. I personally have already unlocked Destroyer, so I guess that increases my odds of getting Jane Foster, but okay. So one of those, and then I should say there's another variant for Jane Foster and another variant for Destroyer. Each of those has a base probability of 1.5%. Every 50 opens, you're guaranteed to get at least one of those. And you are guaranteed to get the base cards before the variants. So theoretically, for me, person in my situation, I could unlock, if I open 50 of these, which is still, if I'm paying money for this, is, I want to say
like
$100 and probably around $100 to $125. I would get Jane Foster, the Mighty Thor, guaranteed. So I'm paying over $100 for one card. Other than that, you get various other variant cards and variant avatars for other characters such as Star-Lord, Drax, Rocket Raccoon, Mantis, Groot, Jane Foster, the avatar for her and for Destroyer, etc. And then mystery variants. So those are like just other variants for any cards you own. So all of those have a base probability of 9.5%, and those are guaranteed at 10 opens. So I, regrettably now, opened 10 of these. I had gold, and I said, I'm going to do 10 pulls. And I did get, a bunch of credits, and unfortunately I got lots of boosters for cards that I don't play with. And then I got a avatar for the Destroyer. And let me tell you, it felt pretty bad. I had been saving my gold for a while, not spending it, thinking, okay, I'm going to need this to play into some game mode, Nexus Events, got to save this up. And what I walked away with was some credits, which, okay, I used that to advance a couple of levels on the collection track. But I got some boosters I'm probably not going to use, and I got an avatar I'm probably not going to use. And then beyond the probability of all those things I've just stated, the common base probability is 89%, split between credits of different levels, 200, 300, 400, and then mystery boosters of 20, 30, or 40. Again, that's at any random card in your collection. You have no way of targeting that, and those are the highest probability things. I've kind of maybe emphasized some of my frustrations as I've been just kind of explaining some of the probabilities here. But Chalker, what are your initial thoughts, concerns, feelings about this?
I forgot to ask before starting this podcast. Are we allowed to swear on this thing?
No, I don't have any explicit rating, so we got to keep language to minimal to keep that.
Okay,
But
well, I asked that.
I understand why you're asking.
Because I was really excited about this, and I'm happy to give the devs money that they're working on stuff. But this has been Nexus Events have been the single worst video game experience I have ever had in my entire life. I did the same thing as you. I bought the 10 Nexus Events opens, and I was like, wait a second, is this the whole thing? And then I bought one more just to check. Like, I just bought an individual one. So I did 11 openings. I spent 1,980 gold, just under 2,000 gold on the whole thing. And I got a single Groot avatar, and the fact that it happened so fast was the most shocking thing I've ever seen. It was, I spent $20, and then the whole experience was done within 45 seconds. I was stunned how fast that you went through the little openings, and it's like, this is the fastest $20 for a cosmetic thing that really doesn't. It felt like there was literally no value to me whatsoever. And I was thinking about this last night as I was planning for the podcast, and I was like, listen, just saying to myself, you go to Las Vegas and you see the slot machine pit, and if you go to the slot pits, the $1, $2, and $5 slots are in the high stakes zone. They're, the ones that most people can play, and you roll the dice on, are like 5 to 25 cents a pull. These would be considered high stakes in Las Vegas or any other casino, and the return is like very fast. And I don't want to push back and say, like, you're spending $150 for a card, because that's literally what you're getting. But you're also getting other stuff. Depends on how much you value the other things on the way, right? Do you value the variants? And I do. I think the art is amazing. I've personally paid for 2 variants, and I think that that's really cool. But I don't think it's worth $20 of money to put in to get like an avatar. This whole system, this Nexus event, has turned me off on the thing. Literally yesterday afternoon, while I was driving around a little bit, I was thinking that, like, have I invested too much time into this game? Should I really continue doing the content creation? Is this game going to succeed? It makes me scared that if they're fully committed to this, that it might not make the distance, because the reaction has been so vociferously negative, and so I, I haven't seen something quite like this before, other than like maybe Diablo Immortal and like Cyberpunk 2077, right? Like, this is so much pushback, and the devs are hearing it, right? Like, in the Discords and in the Reddits and in the Twitters, that's all anyone is talking about, is how much of a disaster these Nexus events are. And I gotta agree, they just don't feel fun. They absolutely feel like a cash grab, and it needs to be tied into something. I compare it to, like, I think they heard on the reward track where they sent out those those surveys recently, right? Asking like, did this feel meaningful or impactful? Were you having fun with this? And I think they clearly heard that, and they probably said, okay, upgrading your card in the collection manager doesn't feel meaningful enough. Let's add a bunch of animations and stuff on it, right? And like now the new ones are pretty cool that came out in the patch yesterday, or 2 days ago, whatever it was. And that's a neat thing, but that feels so much more monumental than opening up a $2 Nexus event roll, right? Like they need
Mm-hmm.
to put some packaging around this. It was the biggest letdown pushing that button and then just seeing like an avatar push it again, see 200 credits or whatever, and you go through the whole thing so fast. Like even if it was tied into like you have to go fight a pre-made destroyer deck against an AI and then you get your random thing, then you at least feel like you're doing something to get to that point and you feel like you paid an entry to participate. Right now, it doesn't feel like an event. It feels like a slot machine. And it feels like
Yep.
a slot machine that goes really fast and doesn't show any animations or any cool stuff at the same time. Like I'm so, and a thing that I've noticed several other creators talking about with the Nexus events is that they're not going to spend money on the game anymore, and I'm in the same bucket, right? Like I'm not going to continue spending money on this game until they fix this, right? I've already spent, I did buy the $100 gold pack, and then I bought the two season passes, so I've spent like $120 or something like that on it, and I'm just not going to anymore because this is a mess. This needs to be fixed, and the devs hear it. I'm certain of that, and I hope that they can get past this, and that they can fix it. But this cannot be the way that this game works. This is very, 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 very concerning for the long-term health and safety of the game. And
Yes.
those are my thoughts on it.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that they're feeling the pushback. I hope they're seeing the decline in money being spent. Right. A lot of people are saying, obviously, we have no idea. I mean, people could still be spending tons of money on this, right? But everybody I know that I've been chatting with various creators, followers of the podcast over the last couple of days, and all of them, it sounds like, either didn't do it at all or they did it kind of same thing as you and me, right? They did some polls kind of right when the event launched, and then they're saying, "Oh, I'm not spending any more money, and I'm not doing any more polls." Right? So it was like probably a big spike. Everybody did it right there at the beginning, and now nobody wants to do it again. Right? I'm hoping that's what the data shows. I'm hoping they're really feeling the pushback and feel motivated to make a change. Now, trying to see silver lining in this. We've already talked. Seems like they're really invested in balancing cards. So, I mean, we've had 2 weeks ago, we had a patch. We had a patch this week, right? And in both patches, they made, meaningful changes and updates to cards. And it seems like that pattern will continue, right? So they're invested in the gameplay, which I think is a good sign. We've already talked about how there maybe is some silver lining and some positives with the change to the collection level tracker. And yes, there's still maybe some complaints about the randomness, etc. I don't think there's no value, I don't think there's no validity to those, but I do think there is some positive, right? I think it will speed up the progression for people that are in at certain points in the collection level. So it's not, I'm trying not to feel too all doom and gloom, and I'm not saying you are either. I think, after kind of Wednesday night, I was feeling pretty doom and gloom, right? I was kind of like you. It was like, wow, I created a podcast about this game, and I've been talking to all my friends about the game, and I've been talking to all these great creators about the game, right? And it kind of felt a little bit like, man, this kind of stinks, right? Like I've invested all this time and effort into trying to do something about something I'm passionate about, Marvel, card games, etc. And it kind of felt like a letdown. So I do feel like we can't really know. It's too early to say like, okay, the game's dead, right? I mean, some people have been saying that like, okay, I mean, my hope is that in the next 2 to 4 weeks we see some changes, right? And we see a pullback of this, we see a restructuring of this. I'd love to just talk a minute with you about your ideas of how they could take the Nexus events, gut them, and make them into a more playable mode. And I'll kind of share my thought first. I would love to see something kind of like you talked about with Magic, right? Where maybe you pay 100 gold, 200 gold to enter, and you're going to be playing against decks that use the cards you're going to unlock, right? Jane Foster, the Mighty Thor, and maybe she's combined with Thor and Destroyer, and maybe you're playing against a couple different decks. And maybe it's if okay, if you win one match, you get some credits, right? And if you win two matches, you get credits, but you also get an avatar, right? And I don't know exactly how this works, but eventually, like maybe if you make it all the way to 7 wins with no losses, for example, you'd get all the things on the little collection tracker. Or maybe it's just, you get the one high reward, which is unlocking one of the cards at the end, or a variant or something, right? So it feels more meaningful to actually play. Like you're saying, there's an experience. It's not just 45 seconds, but also that you have a little more control, right? I mean, you're not guaranteed to win those matches, right? You need to strategize. You need to build a deck that you feel like you're going to be successful against these cards, which I think is great. It's super fun, right? But you have a little more control of, okay, I didn't do it the first time. I lost, at game 4, but I'm going to restructure my deck and I'm going to try it again. So then you feel good about spending another 200 gold, right? Because you get more of the experience and it feels less like, okay, I'm just like kind of throwing my gold down the drain, right? And hoping for the best, crossing my fingers. So I don't know. Do you have any other ideas or like maybe completely different direction you'd like to see them go with something
Totally.
like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you're saying, it's about the experience, right? So it's what we put the value in. Right now, let's say 2,000, well, not 2,000 gold, 1,800 gold, which is just less than 20 bucks or whatever. Whatever the math works out. Say you're giving 20 bucks to the devs to open up 10 of these things, and they're saying that the $20 is worth just cards or just variants or just boosters. All of those things are the value. But what I think we're saying is that what we really need is an experience. We really need to be doing something else. Because if we don't think that the cards provide value, you can offload that value onto something else, be it a story, be it a gameplay mode, be it a challenge, whatever it is, some sort of thing that you do to get to that point will add value to the cards, because right now, or the cards or the variants or the avatars or whatever they're giving you, right? And I think that, like you said, like go to 7 and you play against pre-made decks, that'd be cool. It could be something, they have, this is a comic book world, right? That or a movie world, right? It's a fictional world with lots of stories. You could have some sort of animated story that you go through, right? Like through
Mm-hmm.
building decks, and similar to the Hearthstone Book of Heroes mode, right? Where like you would have comics basically, and you would go through a narrative experience over the course of time, and it would be like you were buying the comic book almost. In addition, you would get little rewards of cards or variants or art or whatever it is as a random bonus on top of it. But if you look at it as, I'm paying for this experience rather than I'm paying for randomly being able to get something that may or may not have value to me and will be a letdown if I don't get the only thing that I'm interested in. This is actually the biggest problem with the way they did the Nexus events, is they push it out and advertise it as a way to get cards. But the way you get cards is by investing just boatloads of cash. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not realistic for most people to do it in that way. So it feels like false advertising. I know Zeddy, a big Hearthstone streamer, posted a video about it, this exact thing. Like, hey, you guys came out on your banner ads with like 2 pictures of cards and 2 pictures of variants, but that's not what you actually get from Nexus events unless you spend tremendous amounts of money. So they as the devs are putting value, they're assuming the value of these events is the item you receive, um, but they're not making that a realistic possibility. It's deceptive advertising, and in order to make the players feel better about it, I think that they need to do some sort of offsetting experience thing. If they don't want to either reduce the cost of the events or increase the polls of them or whatever, they got to wrap it up in something different, and present it in a different way, because this could not have been more problematic. So I think an experience, that's not a very concise or clear answer. But the word that I want to put out into the universe for everyone in the Marvel Snap world to think about is experience, and do something cool with Nexus events, not just push a button and get something by chance. Loot boxes suck. No one likes them. And this is I'm not a business person and I'm not a legal professional, but I do know that certain countries have restrictions on loot boxes like this because they classify them as gambling. And I'd be very, very, very concerned about the way that this system is currently set up and it's being able to be released in certain jurisdictions, because straight up right now, you do a Nexus event and you're just going to the slot machine. And that's
Yep.
really unfortunate.
Yeah, and I just want to echo what you say, the word experience. I mean, I think the reason this game has grown so fast with popularity and so many people wanting to test it and play it, et cetera, right, has been the gameplay experience is great, right?
Incredible. It's one
We
of the
love
funnest
playing the
games.
game. I mean,
So fun.
I was feeling pretty depressed Wednesday, but like I found myself playing a little bit less than I normally would, but I still played some games yesterday, Thursday and Friday, or I don't even know what day of the week we're on. The 2 days since the patch dropped, right? Because I still enjoy playing the matches, right? I still love trying new decks. I still love theory crafting. I still love playing the game. The experience of the core gameplay is great. They need to build, like you're saying, more experiences on that. Um, and yes, maybe those experiences involve using in-game currencies, or some people can put extra money into them, but they need to have a great experience because that's their core strength is experience with the core gameplay. So they need to evolve that and build upon that because I think it's their greatest asset. I think maybe they're thinking their greatest asset is this feeling of unlocking cards, which I think there is some fun to that, right? With the collection level, obviously we're still seeing some rework there, but like I do like kind of like collecting new cards and building my collection. I mean, there is some fun to that, but I think their core strength, which maybe they're not realizing, is the gameplay, and that's what they need to build on. I think for the long term
Yeah.
success of this game.
Yeah, and the difficulty of hyping up the collecting experience of opening up a new card is that there just aren't that many cards. And like I said earlier, you can hit the end of the sidewalk eventually. And then what do you do at that point? Do you just quit the game? Like if you're hyped up enough to sit here and try and spend all this money to collect every single card, what happens when you got them all?
Yeah.
Are you still itching to get new ones, or are you at that point? Is your goal and focus change? I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
in the current state, right, it'd be you spend $900 every month to unlock 2 new cards, right? So
Sure. It's like three people on the planet. That's something that they are doing pretty good job about limiting the speed of advancement, because there are other mobile games out there that have huge problems with whale wars, and where it's just 100% pay to win. And like, I don't know if it's Clash of Clans or one of those where like someone can spend $50,000 and just dominate everyone, and like that's not what they want in this game. And I think that they're doing a good job of preventing it from like a competitive balance standpoint. This is something we didn't really get into, and I don't think we have time to right now. But I think that it's good that they've put all of the meta defining cards in like pool one and pool two for the most part. I know like Ghost Rider and stuff is in pool three, but like Nakia Okoye and Nova Carnage, those were things that people could get very early, and they are very, 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 very powerful. So I think from a competitive balance standpoint, this idea of the collection growing later on, you're just getting new and unique cards. I don't think that you're paying to win. So I do commend them for that. But I want them to think, I'm sure they are thinking long and hard, and we all are, about what the actual experience that we're having and what is and is not fun. And as we know, Nexus events are not fun. That wasn't a big coherent sentence, but those are my thoughts. I'm trying to squeeze out as quick as possible.
no, I totally get you, and I mean, I do want to touch on the topic, like you say. I mean, we don't have a ton of time left, but uh, people may disagree with me, and that's okay. I know there's a lot of concern of, well, I can't get the, people say it like this kind of superlative of, I can't get the 2 good cards in pool 3 that like everybody's using. That's like, I can't win unless I have those cards. And I don't feel that way. I look at most of my decks I'm playing with or I've made, and most of them are, out of my 12 cards in my deck, will be 9, 10, or sometimes even 11 of them are pool 1 and pool 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have 1 or 2 pool 3 cards I've slotted in, right?
Right.
That kind of make the combo. And so I feel like I'm able to kind of create a base, the majority of my deck, out of cards that everybody can get relatively quickly. And then based on what I've pulled out of pool 3, I can then kind of work around that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for example, I have like a Cerebro deck. Not everybody has Cerebro, right?
I don't.
But 11 of my cards are pool 1 and pool 2 cards, and then Cerebro is my pool 3 card, right? So I pulled Cerebro so I can make a Cerebro deck.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled, Doctor Doom, and so I've made a Doctor Doom deck, right?
Right.
But like every other card in there is like a pool 1 and pool 2 card, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
And then also those decks, I assume, aren't like 100% win rate, right? Like you're not going
oh no,
to get
I
it
mean
and
they're
immediately
not.
hit an infinite.
Yeah, but I I keep playing them because they have at least, at least it feels like to me a 50 or higher, right?
For sure.
But they're closer to probably the 60%, 65% win rate. And when I feel like one's not doing good, I switch to another one or I build another one, right?
For sure.
And so I think, I know there's been that complaint, that concern. I think, like we've been talking about, I think that's less of the concern for me. The concern is I want to play the game. I want to have experience. I don't want to feel like I have to spend astronomical amounts of money to unlock cards that I would like to get. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'd like to get Jane Foster, the Mighty Thor. I'd like to have her. I'd like to try her out. Fun. But I don't want to pay $100 to get her, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that they are thinking about all sorts of different ways of card acquisition, but I mean, some sort of crafting system would be so much better than this. But I don't want to get into that detail right now.
Yeah, and I know there are a lot of people out there that agree with you. So, time will tell. I mean, if they keep up the 2-week, I mean, they may keep up this 2-week patch cadence now that they've kind of done it. So we'll see. We'll see where we're at in 2 weeks. I'm interested. I'm interested to see if we get more thoughts shared from the developers between now and then. I know that, and I think with good reason, you never want to say something just offhand in Discord or on Twitter of saying, hey, we're doing this or we're going to do, this without having their full plan in place.
Yeah.
Right. So I do think they're right in doing that. I know that's frustrating to some people because they're like, hey, don't you see all this negative feedback about Nexus Events? Why haven't you released some big statement? It's like, well,
we're a corporation.
Yeah, they see the dumpster fire, but they need to get their ducks in a row. They need to come up with a plan, right? They can't say
it's not one person. There's a large group that's got to have meetings and they got to talk about it and their strategy, and they have a long-term plan here. Also, it wasn't like they just planned Nexus Events last week and just dropped them, and then they're like, oh no, this is a disaster. They've been planning this for years, right? Yeah. And they just didn't know how the reaction was going to be, and I'm sure they're having a terrible couple of days. So they're not having fun right now, and they're sitting, strategizing, and thinking. And I these guys, these people are all very experienced, and they know what's going on, and they don't want to wreck the game. So I hope that they're going to save it, because I love this game. I really, really, really do. I think it's got legs, but this is the big miss thus far for them.
Yep. I think we're both on the same page. We want the game to succeed. So our hope is, I think we are feeling a little down this week, but we have hope for the future. We'll obviously stay tuned here to how things change going forward. Well, absolutely. That's all the time we have for today. Chalker, just before we go, I know you spoke to it a little bit at the beginning, but I'd love just to give you another opportunity. Tell the listeners where they can follow you, where they can consume the content you're putting out, and how they can best support you.
Yeah, sure. So my handle's Chalker7, just Chalk ER and the number 7, and it's the same Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. I've been uploading a little bit. I'll be back in about 2 weeks. I've got a little bit of a schedule, but I'm a full-time dad. I watch my 2-year-old 7 days a week. I've been with her 80% of her waking life, and she's going to preschool in 2 weeks. So I'm going to have a lot more time very, very soon, and I'll be streaming on Twitch and posting things on YouTube. So check that out if you got some time.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here. Listeners, I appreciate you listening. I know this is a big topic. Love to hear your thoughts. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at can't_stop_snap. One person did make a comment to me in the Discord. They said, hey, is your episode about Nexus Events going to be an hour of you just screaming? Hopefully it doesn't feel like that's been the case. But obviously we've tried to share our strong opinions about some of these things. So would love to hear your thoughts. As always, reach out to me on Twitter, reach out to me on Discord. And I would love to hear your thoughts about this topic. Thanks for listening. Thanks. And we will talk to you in the next episode.
Bye.
Can't Stop Snapping is a podcast written, produced, recorded, and hosted by Michael Thurman. Thanks for listening.